What would drive a successful CEO to murder his own employee in cold blood? The answer lies in a deadly combination of power, passion, and betrayal. In the shadows of Sterling Innovations, a mid-sized tech company known for cutting-edge projects, Victor Langston commanded respect and admiration. His business acumen was legendary, his charm irresistible. But beneath the polished exterior lurked dangerous desires that would ultimately lead to murder. Have you ever wondered how seemingly normal people can cross unthinkable lines when their perfect lives are threatened? How someone you might work with every day, someone who smiles, shakes hands, and leads meetings, could be capable of taking a life. The truth is that the line between civilized behavior and primal violence is thinner than most of us care to admit. The warehouse stood empty that night. No witnesses, no cameras, just two people, a powerful CEO and his accountant, locked in a deadly confrontation. Only one would leave alive. Today we're diving into a case that shows how quickly a secret office affair can spiral into blackmail, betrayal, and murder. What began as forbidden glances across a conference table ended in a brutal act of violence that shocked an entire community. Voice becomes more intense. When they found Clara Moretti's body, carefully hidden but impossible to keep secret forever, the investigation revealed a complex web of deception that had been woven over months. Text messages, secret meetings, financial transactions, a paper trail of betrayal that would eventually become evidence in one of the most shocking corporate murder cases of the decade. By the end of the story, you'll understand the warning signs that could save your life if you ever find yourself in a dangerous power dynamic. You'll learn to recognize the subtle red flags that Clara missed, signals that might have saved her from a fatal encounter with a man who valued his reputation more than human life. If this is your first time on True Crime Village, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. These aren't just stories. They're survival guides disguised as true crime. Like this video if you're ready to learn how a seemingly innocent workplace romance transformed into a deadly game of power, blackmail, and murder. At the center of our story stands Victor Langston, the 48-year-old CEO of Sterling Innovations. With piercing blue eyes that could disarm or intimidate depending on his mood, Victor had transformed a struggling startup into a tech powerhouse in just 7 years. Colleagues described him as brilliant but mercurial, generous with praise when pleased, ruthlessly critical when disappointed. His management style bred both loyalty and fear. Victor could walk into a room and immediately own it, recalled one former executive. He had this uncanny ability to make you feel like the most important person in the world, or completely invisible. At home, a different reality existed. His 15-year marriage to Lila Hart, once the foundation of his personal narrative, had deteriorated into a hollow performance. They maintained appearances at corporate functions, but behind closed doors, emotional distance grew between them. Lila, an accomplished interior designer with keen observational skills, had begun noticing inconsistencies in Victor's schedule, unexplained expenses, and a growing emotional detachment. Clara Moretti arrived at Sterling Innovations with impeccable credentials and quiet determination. At 35, she was rebuilding her life after a painful divorce that had left her financially strained and emotionally guarded. As lead accountant, her precision with numbers and ethical approach quickly earned her respect throughout the company. Colleagues noted her warm smile but also recognized a certain sadness behind her eyes. Clara was the kind of professional who never made mistakes. A coworker later testified. She kept everything organized, everything in its place. Except, perhaps, her heart. Ethan Caldwell, Clara's ex-husband, had built his reputation as a tenacious private investigator before transitioning to corporate security. Their divorce had been amicable on paper but left emotional wounds on both sides. Despite their separation, Ethan maintained a protective instinct toward Clara, occasionally checking in with mutual friends about her well-being. Sterling Innovations operated from gleaming headquarters where glass walls created an illusion of transparency. The company culture celebrated ambition and rewarded results above all else. Late nights were common, boundaries between professional and personal blurred, and office romances, while not officially endorsed, were tacitly accepted as long as they remained discreet. This environment created the perfect conditions for secrets to flourish, corners where cameras didn't reach, private conference rooms available after hours, and a collective understanding that what happened beyond normal working hours remained unquestioned. It was within these shadows that Victor and Clara's fatal connection would form, setting in motion events that would ultimately leave one dead and the other facing justice. Sterling Innovations' annual corporate retreat took place at Evergreen Resort, a secluded luxury compound nestled against mountain backdrops. For 3 days, employees traded office routines for team-building exercises and strategy sessions, all designed to foster creativity and collaboration. The professional boundaries that defined workplace interactions loosened slightly in this environment, creating opportunities for connections that might never form within office walls. On the second evening, after a day of presentations and workshops, employees gathered in the resort's elegant lounge. Soft jazz played as conversations flowed alongside premium cocktails. Victor Langston moved through the room with practiced ease, briefly acknowledging various department heads before his attention settled on Clara Moretti, who stood alone observing the gathering. "Our numbers wizard," Victor said, approaching with 2 glasses of wine. "The board can't stop talking about your quarterly report presentations." Clara accepted the drink with a measured smile. "I just translate data into stories everyone can understand." What began as discussion about financial projections shifted to personal philosophies, shared literary interests, and finally, subtle glances that lingered too long to be merely professional. By evening's end, they had moved to a secluded corner, their conversation insulated from colleagues by the ambient music and strategic positioning. "I should get some rest," Clara eventually said, aware of watching eyes. Victor nodded. "The Richardson proposal needs review. Perhaps we could discuss it over breakfast?" 7 a.m. in the private dining room. This breakfast meeting became the first of many encounters carefully disguised as work necessities. Back at corporate headquarters, Victor engineered reasons to visit the accounting department. Document reviews required private meetings. Budget discussions extended beyond office hours, eventually relocating to upscale restaurants where business talk gradually yielded to personal confidences. "My marriage exists on paper only," Victor confessed during one such dinner, 6 weeks into their evolving relationship. "Lila and I haven't truly connected in years." Clara, vulnerable after her divorce and flattered by the attention of such a powerful man, found herself drawn deeper into a relationship where professional and personal boundaries blurred beyond recognition. The power imbalance manifested in subtle ways. Victor set the terms when they would meet, where, and for how long. His position allowed him to modify Clara's schedule through special projects that required late hours, creating legitimate excuses for her to remain at the office after others had departed. His gifts arrived with calculated precision. First, professional items, an elegant leather portfolio, premium accounting software for her personal use. Later, more intimate presents appeared. A platinum bracelet delivered to her apartment, designer perfume left discreetly on her desk with handwritten notes. Professionally, Clara found herself inexplicably assigned to high-profile projects. Her recommendations received immediate approval from leadership. Her budget concerns were addressed with unusual speed. These coincidences created an unspoken debt, one that grew with each professional advantage gained. "We make an exceptional team," Victor would remind her, simultaneously acknowledging their professional and personal entanglement. The affair intensified over 4 months, each secret meeting increasing the stakes and deepening Clara's emotional investment, while Victor maintained precise control over the relationship's parameters and progression. Have you ever witnessed or experienced workplace relationships that crossed professional boundaries? The consequences can range from minor workplace awkwardness to life-altering damage. Share your thoughts in the comments. What warning signs should people watch for when attraction develops in professional settings? 5 months into their secret relationship, Clara sat alone in her apartment reviewing text messages from Victor. Rain tapped against her windows as she scrolled through months of communication, searching for something that had begun to nag at her consciousness. The pattern emerged with cold clarity. Promises made in private moments were consistently contradicted by his actions the following day. "We'll find the right time to be together properly," he had whispered just last week. Yet the next morning, he'd announced a family vacation with his wife at the executive meeting, his eyes never once meeting Clara's. Clara pulled out a notebook and began documenting dates, promises, and subsequent contradictions. The evidence mounted, a relationship built on calculation rather than genuine emotion. With methodical precision, she began collecting proof of their affair, forwarding key emails to a private account, photographing gifts with their handwritten notes, recording late-night calls where Victor discussed both company finances and their relationship. "This isn't paranoia," she told herself. "This is self-preservation." Her revelation crystallized during a company financial review. Victor publicly dismissed a budget concern she had raised, the same concern he had agreed with during their private dinner the previous evening. His dismissive tone, the subtle warning glance, these were not actions of a man in love but tactics of a man maintaining control. Clara requested a private meeting with Victor, scheduling it through his assistant for legitimate appearance. When she entered his corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, Victor greeted her with professional courtesy that dissolved into intimate familiarity once the door closed. "I've been looking forward to seeing you," he said, moving to embrace her. Clara stepped back. "We need to talk about our situation." The conversation began calmly, Clara explaining her realization that their relationship had no future, that his promises remained unfulfilled, that she needed to reclaim her professional integrity and personal autonomy. Victor's expression hardened as she spoke, his charm evaporating. "I thought you understood our arrangement." "An arrangement benefits both parties," Clara replied, placing a folder on his desk. "This arrangement only serves you." Inside the folder, timeline documentation, message printouts, photographs of gifts. Not presented as a threat initially, but as evidence supporting her decision to end their relationship. Victor's reaction shifted from dismissive to threatening. He outlined consequences with chilling precision. How easily her professional reputation could be destroyed, how a narrative of her attempting to sleep her way to promotion could be established, how her financial history after her divorce left her particularly vulnerable. "You're threatening me for wanting to end a relationship?" Clara asked, genuine shock in her voice. "I'm explaining reality," Victor replied. "You're an excellent accountant, Clara, but ultimately replaceable. I am not." The meeting's tone deteriorated further, each party recalibrating their position. Clara, realizing the dangerous territory she'd entered, pivoted to self-protection. "If anything happens to my career or reputation, this evidence goes public," she stated. "I don't want money or advancement. I just want a clean break and professional respect." Victor's laugh held no humor. "You're attempting to blackmail me now? Interesting choice." "Not blackmail. Insurance." The confrontation escalated into dangerous territory. Victor suggested that Clara take paid leave to reconsider her position. Clara refused, understanding that absence would allow him to control the narrative. "1 week," Victor finally stated, his voice unervingly calm. "Take 1 week to reconsider what you're doing. After that, we'll meet again to resolve this situation permanently." The word permanently hung between them, loaded with implication. Clara left his office understanding that she had crossed a line from which there was no retreat. What had begun as an exit strategy had transformed into a dangerous game with a man whose public power was matched only by his private capacity for calculated manipulation. 7 days after their confrontation, Victor texted Clara from an unmarked number, "Final resolution tonight. Warehouse at Harper Industrial Park. 10 p.m. Come alone. Bring everything." The message included an address and a warning that this would be their only opportunity to resolve matters privately. Clara hesitated, aware of the risk. She considered ignoring the message but calculated that rejection might accelerate his threats against her career. After deliberating for hours, she made 2 decisions. She would attend the meeting, and she would leave a sealed envelope with her attorney containing all evidence of their relationship, to be opened if she didn't check in by morning. Harper Industrial Park sat on the outskirts of the city, a collection of aging structures awaiting redevelopment. Building 17, their designated meeting point, stood isolated at the complex's edge, its weathered exterior concealed by darkness. The surrounding area remained unnervingly quiet. No security patrols, no homeless encampments, no late-night workers. Just empty parking lots and abandoned loading docks. Clara arrived at 10:05, parking her car where it remained visible from the main road. She carried a slim briefcase containing copies of her evidence, her originals safely stored elsewhere. Her phone recorded audio in her pocket as she approached the building's side entrance. The warehouse interior was cavernous, with minimal emergency lighting casting shadows across concrete floors. Support columns created a maze-like quality throughout the space. The air hung heavy with dust and neglect. Victor, her voice echoed against metal and concrete. He emerged from behind a column, dressed in black casual clothing rather than his typical tailored suits. "You're late." "I almost didn't come," Clara replied, maintaining distance between them. The negotiation began civilly, Victor explaining how they could both walk away unharmed if she surrendered all evidence. He brought cash, he claimed, compensation for her emotional distress and career transition. But when Clara mentioned the safety measures she'd implemented, the attorney, the secured original documents, Victor's facade cracked. "You still don't understand who you're dealing with," he said, his voice dropping to a dangerous register. What happened next occurred in terrifying sequence. Victor lunging forward, Clara backing away, her briefcase falling. The struggle lasted less than 2 minutes. Clara fighting with unexpected strength, Victor overwhelming her with his weight and rage. His hands found her throat as they fell against a concrete column. When Clara stopped moving, the warehouse fell into perfect silence. Victor stared at her motionless form, his breathing ragged. The reality of his actions registered slowly, then all at once. He methodically gathered evidence of his presence. The briefcase, Clara's phone, her purse. He wiped surfaces he'd touched. Using a tarp found in a storage area, he wrapped Clara's body and loaded it into the trunk of his car during a moment when the main road stood empty. 3 hours later, after disposing of her body in a remote construction site and her belongings in various dumpsters across the city, Victor returned home. He showered, burned his clothes in the backyard fire pit, and prepared his alibi, a fabricated late-night client emergency. But Victor made one critical mistake that would eventually lead to his downfall. When removing Clara's phone, he hadn't realized her smartwatch was still recording their encounter, automatically uploading audio to her cloud storage, capturing every word, every struggle, and the damning silence that followed. Clara Moretti was reported missing when she failed to appear at work for 3 consecutive days without communication. Behavior colleagues described as completely unlike her. Initial police response categorized her case as low priority, suggesting she had likely left town voluntarily following personal difficulties. Ethan Caldwell learned of his ex-wife's disappearance through a mutual friend. Despite their divorce, lingering concern prompted him to visit her apartment, where he found an unsettling scene. Her home appeared normal, yet key items were missing: her passport, laptop, and weekend bag, suggesting a planned departure. Too perfect, Ethan thought, noting how nothing was disturbed, as if staged. Clara wouldn't leave without telling someone, Ethan told police, who remained unconvinced. Frustrated by their limited response, he leveraged his investigative background, beginning with her phone records and financial transactions. The breakthrough came when Clara's attorney contacted Ethan about the sealed envelope she had left, triggered by her failure to check in. The contents revealed the affair with Victor and her fears about their final meeting. Ethan immediately escalated his concerns to police, who finally began treating the case as a potential homicide. Meanwhile, Lila Hart was conducting her own investigation at home. Victor's behavior had changed subtly. Late-night showers, unusual attentiveness, a sudden desire to renovate their backyard. Searching his home office while he was at work, she discovered hidden receipts for jewelry never given to her and hotel charges from nights he claimed to be working late. The final piece fell into place when Lila found Victor's secondary phone hidden in his car's spare tire compartment, containing threatening messages to Clara. Lila made the difficult decision to contact police, who connected her with Ethan. Their initial meeting in a quiet cafe lasted hours as they shared discoveries from opposite sides of the same story. "I think my husband killed your ex-wife," Lila stated plainly. Their combined evidence provided investigators with critical direction. Clara's smartwatch data recovered from her cloud account, containing audio of the warehouse confrontation, soil from the construction site matching residue on Victor's shoes, surveillance footage showing his car near the warehouse district the night of Clara's disappearance, and cellular data placing his phone in the same locations. Most damning was the forensic analysis of Victor's hastily cleaned car trunk, which revealed traces of Clara's DNA despite his efforts to eliminate evidence. When investigators finally discovered Clara's body at the construction site based on geological evidence and cellular tracking data, the case against Victor Langston became irrefutable. The CEO, who had built his reputation on meticulous control, had left behind a trail of evidence that told the complete story of his deadly betrayal. The trial of Victor Langston versus the state became national news, with media outlets streaming daily updates from the courthouse steps. Security measures intensified as public interest grew, requiring additional officers to manage crowds gathering outside the Justice Center. Inside the courtroom, prosecutors methodically presented their case. The audio recording from Clara's smartwatch played for the jury, capturing Victor's threats, the sounds of struggle, and the haunting silence that followed. Forensic experts testified about DNA evidence found in Victor's car trunk and soil samples matching the burial site. Former Sterling Innovations employees revealed the company's culture of silence regarding executive behavior. Financial records displayed Victor's pattern of gifts and professional favors granted to Clara, establishing the timeline of their relationship. Most powerful was Lila Hart's testimony against her husband. Her composed description of discovering his deception left the courtroom silent. "I married a man I thought I knew," she testified. "I lived with a stranger." After 7 days of testimony and 6 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with their verdict: guilty of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced Victor Langston to life imprisonment without possibility of parole, noting the calculated nature of his actions and complete absence of remorse. As Victor was led away in handcuffs, Ethan Caldwell watched from the gallery. "Clara deserved so much better," he told reporters afterward. "This verdict can't bring her back, but it ensures accountability." Lila filed for divorce the following day, announcing her intention to establish a foundation supporting victims of workplace harassment and power-based abuse. If the story shocked you, please share it with someone who needs to recognize these warning signs. Workplace power dynamics can turn deadly when boundaries blur and control becomes the primary motivation. Your share might literally save someone's life. Sterling Innovations underwent complete restructuring following the scandal. The board appointed new leadership focused on ethical workplace culture, implementing strict anti-harassment policies and anonymous reporting systems. The company survives today, though permanently marked by the case that exposed its toxic foundation. Lila Hart channeled her experience into advocacy, establishing the Moretti Foundation, which provides legal support to workplace harassment victims. Ethan Caldwell returned to private investigation, specializing in corporate misconduct cases and frequently speaking at HR conferences about recognizing danger signs. This tragedy highlights critical warning signs everyone should recognize. Excessive gifts or favors creating obligation, professional advantages granted without merit, insistence on secrecy beyond normal, privacy, isolation from colleagues and support networks, threats. When attempting to change relationship dynamics, the power imbalance between Victor and Clara created a dangerous situation where professional control transformed into personal dominance. When rejection threatened both Victor's authority and carefully constructed public image, violence became his solution to maintaining control. This case reminds us that predators often hide behind professional achievement and charm. Subscribe to True Crime Village for more stories that don't just shock. They equip you with knowledge that could save your life or the life of someone you love.